I read chapters 7 and 8 of The Legal Environment of Business. From reading chapter 7, there was a lot of big points that pointed me out. Um, One of the big points was of ethics, which most of us know are the study of what makes up a good and bad conduct and the inclusive of related actions and values. Aside from ethics, they also talked about business ethics, which are the study of what makes up good and bad conduct as related to business activities and values. This basically means that a business would have certain type of rules as well as regulations as well as values, which basically means that how you would look out for the company and help make it look good as a business. This is actually a lot different than regular ethics because this is just because ethics is what relate to the law and how it would affect you if you actually ended up breaking one of these. Um, we all Another thing that caught my eye was social responsibility. That is the concern of business entities about profit-seeking and non-seeking activities and their unintended impact on others directly or indirectly involved. This basically means that you can actually try and make someone get something even though they don't really want it. Um, there's also at least three theories from the chapter that also caught my eye. There is quantal theories, which are basically acts that are judged as good or bad, which means basically if, if it's looked at, it can be good, or if this something is looked at, it can be good or bad. Um, there's also the tautological theories, which are actions are judged on good or bad based on rules. This basically means that somebody would pull up like a rule book and see if that violates anything, see if it's really good or bad. And the last one was inhumanist theories, which are actions that can be good or bad if they contribute to improving human capacities. This basically means that if you do something that's good or bad, this means that it depends on if it actually can help out in a society. This basically means like something that can be essential, like say putting in a stoplight instead of a stop sign for incoming traffic, or deciding where to put a parking lot. Um, Aside from that in this chapter, there's also many different codes of ethics I actually never knew about. There's individual code of ethics, corporate codes of ethics, industry codes of ethics, and professional codes of ethics. Basically, what they all told me was that each type of different business, depending on what it is, depending if it's just an individual business, as it deals with corporate, it's an industry, or it's a professional business, it means that all their ethics are different. They're not all the same. This is something that I actually never once knew about at all when studying this. In Chapter 8, the big thing that ended up caught my eye were the things called dimensions. There was political dimension, economic dimension, cultural dimension, and legal dimension. This basically means that these are all different studies of other different practices. This does not mean like it's some dimension where only these rules apply in certain things or only follow. It means that basically there's different ways of how each of these four things can be altered. Um, Aside from those, there's also a bunch of international things that caught my eye. There's the difference between a public and a private international law. A public international law is a law that governs the relationship between nations. This basically means that the nations are open with each other and are on good terms. This usually can help, especially if your business wants to sell a product in a different company. For private international law, it's a law that governs the relationships between private parties involved in transactions across borders. This means that you're meeting with somebody who's a little bit more private, or in other words, someone who does not really want to work with many people. There's also international trade, which is the export of goods and services from a country and the import of goods and services into a country. This basically means that you are trading some of your product for someone else's in a product. And then there's also international licensing, which is a contractual agreement by which a company makes its intellectual property available to a foreign individual or company for payment. This means that you are basically giving your rights, well, more of the product's rights to a company to help them out. This can be anything that's out there as long as they're manufacturing it and selling it. From these two chapters, it helped me learn a little bit more about the law perspective, as it made me realize that there are more ethic codes of ethics depending on groups of services. It also made me realize a little bit more about international work than I did before.